From the darkened sky comes the looming calamity Amatsu, here to wreak havoc on the mountainous sacred pinnacle, Komura village, and my Switch's framerate. It's hard not to be impressed by Amatsu. It's huge, and the way its fins and serpentine body ripple and sway as it swims through the wind is pretty damn majestic. Immense storms follow wherever it wanders, arenas backlit with shattering cyclones and booming thunder making the hunt striking and memorable. It's probably already quite obvious that I like Amatsu. It's designed with a goal in mind, a specific experience the designers wanted you to have. And while it's far from the only monster in the series with this goal, I think it manages to hit those notes the best. That is, Amatsu makes it feel like you're going toe to toe with some kind of god. The name Amatsu comes from the Japanese word Amatsukami, which refers to the gods or divine beings that were born or live in the heavens. The original Japanese name of the monster is Amatsu Magatsuchi, literally meaning heavenly god of calamity. You'll notice that when it came time to localize the name, Capcom just cut the original off at the point as Westerners would start having pronunciation problems, and it's not surprising that they'd want to keep some flavour of the original. Viewed in a vacuum, Amatsu looks like a take on traditional East Asian dragons, with a long snake-like body and 4 legs. In mythology, these beings often have an affinity for water, serving as inspiration for Amatsu's powers. The barbs or whiskers on Amatsu and other dragons are probably inspired by those on catfish or koi, which also gets your brain to recognise them as something that might hang around rivers or lakes. This basic template sets Amatsu up to come across as some kind of deity or magical being, but it's got some flair that helps it look unique and work in the context of a Monster Hunter game. The 2 gigantic golden horns on its head serve as a kind of crown, impressing on you who the true King of the Skies is. The fins serve a double purpose. The first is by making it appear as though Amatsu isn't really flying so much as swimming through the air, again associating it with water. The second is that by having them wave around in the fight, it helps add to the illusion that there's a real gale blowing in the arena. For the most part, the colour scheme is muted. Most of the body is a pale white colour, with splotches of red that become more pronounced when it's enraged. It's simple, and I think that goes a long way in helping the whole design feel right for the world of Monster Hunter. Part of the series' identity is that the monsters you hunt aren't really monsters as much as animals. While everything is exaggerated and fantastical, there's often a rough biological explanation for why things look and act the way they do. Tetsukabra has large tusks because it needs to dug and burrow through rocks to find prey. Anjanath breathes fire by igniting a mucus from its specialised nostrils. You get the impression these monsters have adapted and evolved to their environments, adding depth and believability to the world. It also means that when a monster comes along that breaks this design style, it really stands out. Elder dragons, the most powerful monsters in the game, are usually the ones that do this. Leaning more into fantasy than realism makes them striking and feel more impressive. Kushala doesn't come across as formidable just because it can command the wind, but because for any other normal monster there would be a rough explanation as to how it's happening. Instead, it shoots tornadoes out of its mouth and flies around without being slowed down by its heavy metallic skin, and you've just got to accept it. Amatsu plays into this idea quite a lot. Its mere presence affects the weather, it soars through the sky without any wings, and overall it just looks a bit out there. That's why the dampened colour scheme is so important. It stops the design from feeling like it's too much, and makes it more at home in the world of Monster Hunter. Compare Amatsu with All-Mother Nawa, another flying serpentine elder dragon. Nawa's got elements of yellow, gold, blue, purple, white, and parts that glow brightly throughout the fight. It's so beyond something that would naturally occur in nature, beyond even the exaggerated version of nature that the series uses. To see this idea taken to the extreme, look at Monster Hunter Frontier. While not the case for all, there was a tendency to sometimes add crazy spikes and gaudy colours to make a monster feel more powerful. Breaking the grounded aesthetic to make a point can be great, but some of these are so far removed from the house style that they start to look like they're from another series. Amatsu is like a masterclass in this type of design. It's strange and unique enough to look impressive and powerful, but not so much that it starts to feel out of place. It's also the monster I think best encapsulates the whole concept of an elder dragon. The classification itself is a bit of a wastebasket group to dump anything that doesn't fit into the other classifications. The tiny unicorn Kirin is pretty far removed from the gigantic Dalamadur, but they're both grouped together as elder dragons because they don't fit anywhere else. In fact, there's only one commonality between elder dragons. Their mere presence can cause natural disasters. There's a line from World that sums it up perfectly when the ecologist says that instead of trying to classify them ordinarily, you could call them a type of phenomenon. Disasters, cataclysms, living, breathing forces of nature. This power gets communicated to you a few different ways, one being the already discussed way they break the series design mold. Another is in the technical details of the hunt. They usually hit hard and have a wide range of powerful moves, perhaps even one or two super style moves that can kill you in one hit. The last is in the way they interact with the story, and it's here that you often get an idea of how they can affect not just you, but the whole ecosystem. In my last video, I covered how the giant whale dragon Sidious was responsible for causing earthquakes that threatened to sink the tiny Mocha village. And in World, you're told how Nergigante displacing other elder dragons will shatter the delicate balance of their new homes. The problem with this is that you're often told they're doing this stuff without actually experiencing it yourself. In Tri, you see the earthquake shake Moga, but none happen during the Sidious hunt itself. In World, you're told elder dragons are wrecking the ecosystem, but during the hunt you can see that their presence hasn't changed the locales at all. That's why I love that the areas you fight Amatsu in are surrounded by violent storms. You don't need to wait until it attacks to get a feel for its power. Already in the base camp you can see the Tempest wreaking havoc on the surrounding areas. When you finally bring the monster down, the clouds vanish immediately, allowing sunshine and rainbows back into the sky, a visible proof of what you've achieved. The unique victory music accompanying this makes it feel like a real moment of triumph. Seeing these storms also helps reinforce Amatsu's godly side. Plenty of cultures and groups throughout our own world have gods that are said to play a role in the weather, and often they're some of the most important or powerful members of their respective pantheon, probably because of the huge impact weather can have on our lives. It seems to be a pretty human thing to link weather and God together like this, which is maybe why it feels so natural that the world of Monster Hunter has an equivalent in Amatsu. But why does Amatsu feel like it fits this role more than other monsters? Kushala Daora, Nawa and Ibushi all control elements like wind and thunder, the latter two even having a roughly similar profile to our floating storm dragon. How come they don't come across as divine as Amatsu does? I think it comes down to their behaviour. Those three examples feel antagonistic. Kushala's battle theme is dynamic and dangerous, and he's been in so many games that fighting him has come to feel natural. Nawa and Ibushi caused the rampage that threatened Kimura village, and while hunting Ibushi you can see it directly attack human fortifications in an effort to move through the village. Compare that with Amatsu. While it can move fast and be aggressive, it's often shown just floating, chilling, and minding its own business. During the first stage of the fight, the music is understated and pretty slow going, matching this ambient mood and making the showdown feel almost peaceful. This only evolves into a fast-paced track when Amatsu gets pissed off, and you have to lay down quite a significant beating before that happens. This helps reinforce the idea that it's not creating the devastating storms that follow it out of anger or malice. They're instead just a fact of nature, a side effect of it existing and moving around in the world. It would be too easy to say it makes the storms that devastate the environment because it's angry and a big meanie. The contrast between calm and destruction makes Amatsu feel difficult to understand and more mysterious. It's way more in line with how you'd interpret the actions of some inscrutable god who seems to decide the weather on a whim. You might now say, but Tom, my main memory of the Sunbreak fight wasn't about peace and love and all this other shit. I remember the mental super moves and all the crazy cool stuff that happens in the second half. And yeah, Sunbreak introduced a bunch of extremely dynamic and visually impressive moves for Amatsu to wow you with. Outside of just making the fight more memorable through spectacle, I think these help define Amatsu even more by again contrasting its more calm side. It shows you that it's got the capacity to be both things, chill and vibing versus ultra violence. The range of behaviour makes for a far more interesting monster than having it be entirely peaceful or charge around like a maniac the whole time. It also matches the nature of weather too, and with that becomes the perfect example of how the series wants elder dragons to feel. They should feel like facing a force of nature, something so powerful and mysterious that it could easily be mistaken for having some kind of godly power. Nature can be both beautiful and dangerous, and often is both at the same time. Amatsu perfectly embodies these ideas, from its core design and looks to how it interacts with you and the greater world of the game. Now all that being said, there is just one more thing I want to leave you with. I often start writing these scripts by asking myself why I'm excited to talk about the topic and then build up from there. That first sentence usually gets modified or completely changed as I research and write more. But after all this analysis and overthinking, I'd like to leave you with that first sentence I wrote for this video, because at the end of the day, I think it sums up why I, and probably many of you, have a soft spot for Amatsu. It's just really fucking cool. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.